Ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome a very special astrologer today. Somebody who's been bringing you guys a lot of great astrologers like Suresh Chandra Mishra and Shankar Nath Kapoor ji. Please welcome Vandana Gupta ji. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Sunil. Thank you.
Okay, it's great to have you here. And let me ask the very first question.
First,
okay,
before
the question, can you hear the procession? Bombay is famous for processions, or India.
I hear drums in the background. I was just about to ask you what all of this is.
Yeah, it's a marriage procession coming towards us, and I hope our audience can also hear us pretty clearly. But I think that's a good moment for this, and we hope to have you with us many times.
Thank you, Sunil. It's my privilege and my honor to be here. Thank you for having me, and I'm so pleased to have this opportunity to share what little learning I do in astrology.
It's not little, because people on Facebook know your immense knowledge. They know you're a scholar in astrology and how deeply you go into the subject. Mr. Kapoor, Shankar Nath Kapoor, was talking to me about you, that how deeply you go, and he's extremely proud of you.
Yeah, he's been my mentor, and I'm always grateful to him for all that he's taught me, one. And second, for the fact that he appreciates and encourages people. So I'm highly thankful to him for everything that he's given to me. So
he's a very warm personality, actually.
Yes, he is.
Okay, the first question
is,
when did you start astrology, or why did you start astrology?
Oh boy. So Sunil, I am very wary of counting astrology by number of years that one has been learning astrology. The reason I say that is I meet people who say they have 3 decades, 4 decades, 2 decades of astrology experience behind them, and sometimes I'm not very highly impacted by such individuals, regardless of whether it's astrology or any other profession, but more so astrology, because I believe astrology comes from our sanskars and our previous life. So if you look at myself, I'm not born into a family who has, for generations, as far as we know our generations, we've had anything to do with astrology. So I always say that rather than counting it by years or how long I've been doing it, I always count it by the grace of my guru. And I hope and I believe very strongly that the grace of my guru has been with me always. So let me just say that he is with me, and I'm a perpetual student of astrology in all earnestness, and I bow down to the divine. That's all I want to say about my background.
So humble of you, so humble of you. Okay, let me also inform our viewers that on 31st January, Vandana Gupta ji would be one of our esteemed speakers among our 10 speakers, like Shri S.N. Kapoor ji, J.N. Sharma ji, Dr. K.S. Sharak, Vinay Aditya, Suresh Chandra Mishra ji, Rangachari ji, so many great speakers from Delhi and around. And Vandana ji, my request to you is, as I had spoken to you before this session, is you have studied on certain areas. Which are the areas that you have concentrated on?
So to say that, to call out areas that I've concentrated on, Sunil, it's easier for me to call out areas that I have not been able to concentrate on, because astrology is such a vast science. I always feel like I am very nascent, and I am beginning my education in astrology. Every single day that I study, I feel that I'm beginning my education. So I'm very hesitant to say that I've focused on A area, B area. My way of learning astrology through the years has not been to learn more and more about less and less. Let me put it that way. I believe that you will be taught as nature wants to teach you, and when something comes my way, when there is a discussion or where there is a question, or when I'm reading something and something just pops out at you, it means that it is meant to teach you something about that, and that relevance will then need to be applied to everything else that you need to know about astrology. So my way is, whenever something pops out at me or strikes me, I get magnetized to it, and then I start learning about it. Could be a very small concept like the one that we're going to talk about today. And then I start my little experiments. I call them very little experiments because I do a very quick study first, and then I try to see if it can be replicated. And what I learn from that branches out into so many other areas, or applications that one can't say. Of course, when people come to you, they want to know about profession, they want to know about their relationships, marriage and other partnerships. So in terms of charts, I would say these are the two highest rated questions that I've received. The third one, in select cases, has been about health. Of course, that's not an area of expertise for me, but of course, these two areas have been one where people have come most frequently.
Could you kindly repeat the processions?
Okay, I'm saying when people have come to me for readings, they've come to me primarily for readings on relationships, marriage, and profession and business. So these have been the two areas, I think, worldwide where people will come to you, when they want to know about relationships or how they're going to do professionally, financially. So of course, when people come to you with those are areas that one would focus on quite a bit. In terms of application of astrology, classical astrology is of course one that everyone should follow, and I follow that. But I have a tendency to combine principles of Jaimini astrology. If not in totality, of course, if I have the luxury of time, I would do a study both of traditional Vinchotri Dasha as well as Char Dasha, and sometimes even Sthir Dasha. It's given me phenomenal results. But like I said, that's when I have the luxury of time. Otherwise, I primarily follow the Vinchotri system when I do it.
I'm going to bring you back on all the topics that you said. I'm going to bring you back.
So, I show you how I pepper sometimes my study with insights from these two systems.
Okay, great. What are the topics in the 12th house, Karaka, if I got it right?
Yeah, so there was a, like in astrology, discussions pop up from time to time. And there was this discussion when someone had mentioned that it had been handed down to them that when a Karak, a significator, is in the 12th to the ascendant, it enhances the value of the houses over which it lords, as well as its significations, its karkatva. For example, if Jupiter is in the 12th house, and if we take Kalpurush Kundli, Aries Lagna, so the principle that this individual said had been handed down, and and the question was, does it apply, does it not apply? Was that if Jupiter is in the 12th house, it should enhance significations of 9th house and 12th house, as well as the significations of Jupiter as a Karak, which we know. So whether it is wealth, whether it is progeny, elders, wisdom, gyan, all of the significations associated with Jupiter. And that was brought, when that was brought, my mind immediately raced to the many charts that I had seen. When I had seen planets in 12th house, it was like an alarm bell that there was something wrong in that area. 12th house, we know, is the house of expendables. It's the house of loss, it's the house of, if not loss, of expending something. Now, what that is going to be and how that is going to happen will depend on all of the factors that we know that we need to study for astrology. So when principally, in terms of foundational principles, and Parashar begins with these foundation principles, and we know that it's the house of expending. I thought to myself, does that mean that I can expend only when I have something? Is that why the person might have said, and this person is, because it's a hand-me-down, one doesn't even know if the person who's handed this down through tradition is even there today. I got to thinking, so does this mean that I should have enough dharma to be able to expend it through the 12th house if it's a 9th lord? Or if it's my 4th lord, then should I have enough assets to be able to expend to my 12th house? Is that what it means? And somewhere, when these bells rang in my mind, I started flipping through my the charts that I have. And in my mind also, I started flipping, and I thought to myself, I have seen people in, we say sukhani, diminished pleasure from the Karak or the significator, which is 12th, regardless of whether it's 12th to ascendant or 12th to whatever, we'll come to that later. So when it is Sukhani or diminished happiness or pleasure therefrom, there are three ways that it can happen. Either I will not have it at all, so it will be denied to me, or I will have it and I will lose it completely, and it's going to be a permanent loss. So that's the second way. The third way is that I will have it, but I will not be able to partake the pleasures completely or to reduced degrees. Now, denial we know is, for example, if individuals do not get married throughout their life, that's a total denial. So that one is very clear as an example. Another example is individuals who may get married but may suffer loss of a spouse for in whatever way, whether it's through divorce, separation, or through death. So that means you got something, but it was denied to you later, or it was taken away from you. The third way that you can be denied the sukh or the pleasure from a karak is, and I'm going to share not a very long story, but an example. I was in office, and a few of us were sharing the background of how we gone through life, and this one person said something that stuck with me. He said, I grew up, I had very humble beginnings. There was hardly any food on the table, and I always wanted to earn enough to be able to, he said, I'm a sweet lover. I have a sweet tooth and I love sweets. So I wanted to be able to eat all the sweets in the world without a care. And he said, when I got to a point when I had so much money that I could buy anything I wanted to eat, I got diabetes. So this, which means that you have it, you can expend it, but you cannot partake in the pleasure of that item or that karakatva or that signification.
Or it could be, I'm just trying to interpret.
Yeah.
Or it could mean that you will have the pleasure of it for a certain period of time.
Possibly, yes, yes. And so it diminishes to the degree of malefic influences. We're not saying that it diminishes. So the third case does not mean it can diminish totally. But it will diminish to the degree. For example, there are individuals who are in transferable jobs. So sometimes I notice something, and if the dasha is also promising it at that time, and the age, chronological age by the chakra system is also promising it, you can immediately say that for this period, you would have suffered separation from your spouse. You would not have been able to partake the pleasures of marital life. And you will notice that for whatever reason, whether it is health reasons or whether it is because of transfer, or maybe some other problem in life or impediments, the individual would not have been able to partake those. But when you lay these principles out to people in forums, for example, they say, no, how can you say that it has been a loss? This person was married throughout, for 40 years, there has been no loss. So we are saying loss does not equal zero. Loss means a diminishing of value. And diminishing of value will be proportionate to the influence of benefic and malefic influences, as simple as that. That has to be seen. And so this is, it's a small study, Sunil, like I shared with you before we started.
That's great. A very quick question. Classically, has it been mentioned anywhere? What I vaguely remember is Bhavarth Ratnakar translation by Dr. Raman. I vaguely remember, I read it 10 years back. And I think this 12th house Karaka principle, he has touched upon it in that book.
I do not recall, Sunil. Okay, when it comes to memory, I'm a conceptual learner. So I learn by concepts, I plug it in my memory. And if I need to refer to something for quoting from a text, then I will either rely on Sunil or I will rely on Suresh Chandra Mishra ji, because he's an encyclopedia of knowledge. Oh, yes, of course. He's unparalleled, one of a kind that I have, that anybody, in fact, would have come up with.
No, he's the greatest alive today. He's the greatest alive today.
Greatest alive. And the third way is, of course, I go to my bookshelf, I pull out my books, and I try and recall where I have read it, and then go to the chapters, and I may pull it out.
Let me confess, ideally I should be very well prepared for taking an interview. And just at the last minute, 5 minutes before this, I told the girl here to remove Bhava Ratnakar, and I was trying to open it and find the shloka where it is. Okay. I just could not, you know, you feel nice having a bookshop, but time needs to be dedicated to study. Anyway, let me not take much of your time and of our viewers. And do you want me to share the screen?
Yes, please, Sunil.
Okay, great.
Okay, so can we put this on slideshow mode?